Hello and welcome to Nikon Sessions. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about sports photography. I'm joined by some wonderful sports photographers, some would say legends of sports photography. So let's start with some introductions. Just tell me who you are and what you do.
I'm Laurence Griffiths. I've been a sports photographer for 30 years, 25 of those with Getty Images. That's never really felt like a job. You know, it's a passion and I love what I do.
I'm Pauline Ballet. I'm a freelance sport photographer since now almost 10 years. And the biggest part of my work is cycling. This is where I found the best for me to be creative.
I'm David Ramos. As Laurence, I'm a staff photographer of Getty Images. I'm based in Barcelona, so I've been for Getty Images for more than 10 years, first as a freelance, and then I moved to a staff position, starting in news, but moving in 2016 on the sports team, which I always love it.
When it comes to sports photography, what is sports photography to each of you? Is it just a job or is it actually a genuine passion? You really enjoy the sports side of it as well?
Oh, the sport, yeah, absolutely. You've got to understand sport. I think particularly at Getty Images, the way we operate, we work within our own specialist field, so you have a really good understanding and knowledge of that sport. I think it's actually vital.
Yeah, I discovered sport 10 years ago actually by pure chance, because I just work as an editor in an organization of sports, and this is where I suddenly discovered like cycling, running and all of these other sports, and it was a pure like love at the first sight. Love at the first sight, I would say, yeah, because I immediately saw all the opportunity you can shoot in sport, like of course the action, but all the story there is around sport as well.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think all of us will give a different answer. It's because it depends on you, how you approach your. My case is, all of here is a job. It's my job, it's my work. But I think it's a perfect match because I think all of here we are loving sports and what we are doing every day, capturing historic sports events, legends.
We're in such a privileged position.
I think so. I think that's the word.
It's an honour and a privilege to get that front row seat. I've been fortunate to photograph some of the world's greatest athletes at the best stadiums or venues in the world.
And just kind of picking up on those iconic moments, for a sports photographer, I get the idea that you might know that you're in a pretty important place or a pretty important stadium. It might be a lot of hype around an event, but I suppose there's an unknown to the pictures that you take, because you might not know that a picture that you've taken has gone viral or been successful until maybe after the event, if that makes sense. Is there some of that?
Being a sport photographer, you're such in a rush all the time.
Yeah.
You travel with a time to respect, some action you can't miss. So you are not really like overthinking too much when you're shooting. And it's very true that sometimes I think you realize you are getting a nice picture, but sometimes you don't have the time for that.
No.
And it's so crazy after that to just watching your picture and being like, I was there actually, like I did that, but you are so focused. You are so focused, and you don't really realize it's this big emotion you are quite living, because you are just walking as well.
Sometimes it's that feeling when you are, because it's so fast. So this thing is going so fast, and then I think it's faster than your eye.
Yeah.
And then you have the time sometimes to go back to your screen. It's like I have it or not. And that feeling when it's there.
Yeah.
It used to mean it's it's sharp. It's like, that feeling is absolutely one of the best feelings in my.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many elements that have to come together to get the perfect shot. You know? A little bit of luck thrown in as well, just for you to be in that moment. So that feeling when you do get it is electric.
So for people that want to get into sports photography, I think a really good example is how you got into sports photography, what your journey was and how you got to where you are. So just talk to me a bit about how you ended up here.
Well, my journey began really when I was about 14, when I was very fortunate to have an uncle that was a professional photographer, an amazing photographer, Dave Jones. My passion was football, and he took an amazing black and white shot that won an award of Keith Houchin scoring a diving header in the 1987 FA Cup final. And I just remember when I saw it, it just sparked something in my head that actually, you don't just have to play sport to be involved in it. There's a whole other world out there. There's a whole other outlet. But he gave me that stepping stone and a solid advice about what to do and how to progress, and then got me through the door at a local agency where I started in the library filing slides and photographs. But then they quickly sent me out to assist photographers and process film, and work with an amazing group. And then, you know, very quickly I got the opportunity to start shooting, and it just really snowballed from there, really. And I joined Getty Images in 1996, and I've been there for 25 years. So I've, you know, been very fortunate.
I'm passionate about photography since I'm a teenager, actually.
Yeah.
I think I was very fascinated about the black and white picture of like humanism photographer. So I just wanted to learn how to take a picture, actually. So I just learned film camera. Photography bring me to sport.
Yes.
Because I don't come from any sport
Right.
world before that. What I knew before shooting sport, it was like I was watching Tour de France in summer to my grandma. It was like kind of a routine and very heritage of just doing that in family, you know. And yeah, after my school, I had to work in Paris, so I was looking for a job, and I found a job as an editor, iconographer. And I remember my responsible at the moment was like, "Oh, but you're a photographer." Yeah. Do you mind if you come to help us sometimes on some events, because we need some kind of more shoot or whatever? Like, are you sure? Like, seriously? I think it was a good thing I didn't have any code of sport photography, because as you said before, I feel completely free. Like, I just shoot what I liked it, and I wasn't like thinking about how to shoot sport or which code to respect. I just express myself like very naturally. So I think this is how I really enjoy that and wanted to go back.
I think that's a really interesting way of looking at it, because you might have thought that a lot of people had that interest in sport first, and then they wanted to find a way of being able to capture that sport, when actually you already had that photography knowledge. It's just like, sports was the way to
It was
to
the
do
thing
that.
I was waiting, actually.
Yeah.
Seriously, I really feel like that.
Yeah.
It was very funny.
Great.
I arrived late to photography, really late. So it's not vocational. So it's not part of my family, or I'm gonna be honest, I didn't have any interest when I was 15, 16. So even I started to study economics, and I was 19 years old. I said, I don't know what I'm doing here. That's not for me, clearly. So I gave up. One day, with a friend of mine, I went with him to do some paperwork for a university for him, and there was, I remember, was a kind of a touch, kind of a computer that you can search different options. Like, and I was, let's say, a degree of photography in a university politics. I was 3 years studies. I finished my 3 years studies, I did my degree, then I moved to Andorra to work in a really local newspaper, and that was the best school. So I was shooting there for 8 years, doing really local news, till the day that was too small for me, I feel. So I moved back to Barcelona, and I went to another agency to say, hi, I have my portfolio. They destroy my portfolio. They destroy it, which is fine. So absolutely, no, that's good.
We've all been there.
But that's it. But the day after, he called me and said, guy, there is a job to do tomorrow near Barcelona. Are you available? Yes, of course I am. And boop. And then I met Getty Images, and yeah, so starting there, enjoying sport photography.
If we were to talk about a different genre of photography, a lot of the time people talk about styles and how they edit their images, but I suppose in a lot of circumstances you're not editing your images, someone else is doing that. Is that a difficult?
In our case, working for Getty Images or an editorial agency or photography agency, I would say right now 95% of my content is being edited by editors. Yeah. It's giving us the chance to be live on any kind of client around the globe.
Yeah.
Sometimes even faster than the replay of the goal. Mm-hmm. So I rely totally on our team of editors.
So the editors are fortunate to be presented with a product that's not that far away from where it should be. So it's a simple tidy up tonal adjustments if they need it to be, and then straight out.
Do you think that's slightly different from a freelance perspective?
Yeah, it depends for which client
Yes.
I'm working. For example, when I'm working on the Tour de France, at the end of each stage, my client is asking me like a best of 20 pictures. I edit them, but for me it's like another work as well. So it depends for what the publication is of the picture or whatever. It's most of the time my picture for the Tour de France are for like social network or whatever. So it's of course something different.
You're a small part of that massive jigsaw.
Yeah.
You know, you've got a sporting event that's going on, you don't know what's going to happen, you don't know the narrative of that story, what it's going to be, you don't know what the light conditions are going to be like, or you know, if it's going to be raining, or, you know, and it's just getting the best out of that situation, which I find the most exciting. And it's just that different thing every single day that just keeps you going.
Access, I'm sure all of you agree, is key, right? Being in the right areas is the real key thing, and that can be the difficult thing for a lot of photographers that want to get into sports photography. So is there mentorship programs, is there ways that people can work with you as agencies or other photographers to allow them to gradually work towards that access that you guys get?
I think when you first start, the ultimate dream, you just want to be at the Nou Camp, you want to be at Wembley, you want to be photographing the best football in the biggest stadiums. But I think that my message to everyone that I speak to is that actually at grassroots level, football in the park or whatever, you can get wonderful feature material, you can get an understanding of what you're doing, and mostly you get an understanding of what your equipment can do as well. You know, in terms of mentorship, we use our editing structure to bring through young photographic talent. We put a lot of emphasis in the last decade, really, of using that editing team and linking them up with the best photographers in the world, so they're immersed in content on a daily basis. They're dealing with what our clients need and putting it into practice when they get the opportunity to shoot. So, you know, in theory, there's a stepping stone and a logic behind it that when they actually get out there, they've got an understanding of what it is that they require.
Yeah, I think access is true, I totally agree. It's key, but I won't be too worried about if I'm starting in photography. Because personally, I'm not looking for a photographer like me. I was looking at a photographer that they have a different eye.
Yeah.
In my case, I have enjoyed, of course, Olympic Games, they are always, but it's a different feeling. One of my best memories is a cyclocross World Championships in Andorra. And it was one more event, a small event. Wow, I enjoy a lot. Super access everywhere. Outdoor, the same with the ski cross, cross country or biathlon. You can easily go there and go to some places and shoot from public positions. Yeah.
In terms of mentorship, though, I've been helped throughout my career, particularly at the start. I was helped by my uncle, who was a photographer, you know, and photography in general is a really nice community of people who support each other. And you know, I was really grateful to a lot of people, a lot of brilliant photographers helping me along the way. So I try to give as much back as I can and help people along in their journey as well.
Do you find that if you know that you've got an agency that's covering a location, do you shoot slightly differently, or are you still kind of in competition in the same agency, or do you sometimes help each other out? Is it
it's a mix. We help a lot. We talk a lot. Definitely it's a team. It's a teamwork. Keep in mind that we are not shooting one picture per match. It's like there is a massive work behind. So my average maybe in a big match. I mean, I think Champions League final or the World Cup final. I think I uploaded 425 frames. So it's a non-stop working day. And when you build a team, you need to identify that different profiles of photographers within our team. Yeah. We have to cover winners and losers. We have to cover, that's also a big news when a team is losing. It's part of the history, so we cannot forget that. So if we both are running to the winners, well, what about this? What about the losers? So there's a plan always, and we spend time to allocate positions, build potential scenarios. At the end, you never know because it's photography, and it's like. But we try to be ready to control as much as we can the different scenarios during an event. Yeah.
So I think one of the things that if you were to ask about the generalization of a sports photography or the traditional sports photographer is that you have a camera and a big lens, like a 300 or 400, right? But quite clearly in some of the images that we have here and some of the images we've seen, there's actually a lot of sports photography that's taken on wider angle lenses and more everyday lenses that the traditional photographer might not think a sports photographer would want to use.
Well, I mean, in terms of football, I use 3 cameras. Yeah. And I step it down from a 400mm. Goal math is 70-200, and then I've got 24-70 as well. So I've got the full range. Like, I accept that not everyone's got that level of kit, but that's what I shoot with. But just to have that understanding of your equipment, but then you've got to move through it. You've got to become fluid in understanding how you change lenses, where you put your lens, how that impacts on the photographer sat left or right. So it takes a lot of time to get to that point when you can move fluidly. It's like changing the gears through a car. You know, you've got to step it down gradually and quickly as well.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's a very good point. You said the word fluent. It's super hard to stay fluent when you have like. I'm always working, of course, with 2 cameras, but I have the wide angle in my bag as well.
Yep.
I have the long lens on the motorbike pocket on the side for the finish line. In cycling, I mean, it's impossible to shoot with one lens.
Yeah, no, it's a tool. Basically, for me, the camera is a tool. It's my tool. So and I think it's a sport, or each moment has the right lens. For me, yeah, backgrounds are part of the action. So I like to clean the backgrounds as much. So you need to fill the frame just to get blur. So 2.8. There is a small range of the field of play that's working. If you go too far, you can see the faces of all the advertising and all the obstructions. But if they go too close, you are cutting legs, you are cutting things. So yeah, it's a fraction of a second that action is filling the frame properly. But at the same time, you need to change because it could be a long pass to the box and you are missing the goal, which also is important for us to get the goal. It's important part of the sports photography, yeah. Lenses, also remotes, we can talk about remotes.
It's an interesting point, and a question I'd like to ask is, what do you think about the future of sports photography, especially with the rise of robotics and AI and cameras that are able to control themselves? Where do you think that the future of sports photography is going to go?
Well, I think firstly there's a thirst for photography and sporting content. I think it will always be there just because of how much stuff there is going on in the world. There's so much negative news out there, and I think sport gives that release from that, and it's so popular and people are so well connected to it. So firstly, I think that desire for that sporting content will never disappear.
Yeah, but I think we will still need an eye to shoot, like a sensibility of what you are watching, how you want to shoot that. Because of course we are taking picture, but we are giving an interpretation of what we are seeing. So you can put all the automatically thing, but I think you still have to feel what is going on, like feel the action, feel the sport.
You're still bringing the human element to sports photography.
And the connection to that sport as well.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's a human story.
So
100%.
Okay, so I'm really interested in this picture that we have here, and I'd love to know the process and how you took this picture and how it came to be.
Yeah, so this is as you can see, is the final of the last World Cup, last December. So that Messi shot for me is really important, and I was almost in tears because it has been a long journey with this gentleman, with Lionel Messi.
Yeah.
So first shot was 2008 for me, so it has been 15 years. I'm from Barcelona. I'm supporting Barcelona, but I never been in a major final with him.
Nice.
So that was my first big final with Lionel Messi. So I remember that match, and I was really nervous. It's like because you were imagining in your head, you was picturing in your head, okay, if this guy is winning, you don't want to miss that picture.
No.
You don't want to miss that iconic moment of Lionel Messi raising the trophy. So as soon as they won, I ran onto the pitch, and suddenly, Kun Agüero, who is carrying him on the shoulders, from the center of the stage, the pitch, they said, Leo, because the fans start singing this famous song that during the whole tournament they were singing. So, Leo, vamos para allá. So let's go to the and they keep walking, and at some point he put on the shoulders. And what I like the most of this frame is in between moments.
As sport photographer, our goal, I think, is to do a link between the public and the sport. And I mean, seriously, someone who is watching that, you just feel is a member of the team.
Yeah.
Just feel like you are a buddy of Messi. Like, it's just like, and I think it's, as a photographer, it's this kind of moment we are trying to show, just to make people more entering in the sport life.
Yeah, and the other observation is that it's quite clearly a sports shot, but they're not actually playing sport, and I think that adds into the whole celebration and human element that we're talking about afterwards as well, right? So if you can talk me through this picture, how you got to this final result and the techniques behind it.
So I've been after a shot like that. I've had versions of it, but never as perfect as that. It's all about the chalk, the pose. It's that top of the big release that the guys do. And it's kind of strange with gymnastics because the more you shoot it, the more you normalise what they're doing. But you know, that's incredible. He's so high in the air at that point.
Yeah.
But a lot of it comes from preparation, from experience. So from the moment I walk into a gymnasium or any event, I'm clocking it. I'm looking at backgrounds. I'm looking at how the gymnasium's set up. So this particular gymnast, I saw him in warm-up and I just saw him going so heavy on the chalk, and I just watched his routine and I saw it happening. So I knew I've got to mark him off on my list. I know exactly when he's performing, exactly the right point. So yeah, I get into position. And then you've got to get the shot. And it's fast-paced. The bars is really, really difficult apparatus to shoot, especially on a 400mm when it's full frame.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to give it that, you know, clout of the 400mm delivers. And yeah, it resulted in probably my favourite gymnastics shot I've ever taken.
To a viewer, they see this incredible action that's happening in sports photography, but they don't always necessarily realise the effort that's gone through to it.
I think that's typical of sports photography in general, really. It's the hours spent outside a stadium, it's the years of preparation that you put into a global event, it's all of the hard work, and that's the end result. You know, there's a lot of people and a lot involved in the process along the way, so they need a huge amount of credit as well for supporting us and doing the job that, you know, we're at the front end of it. You know?
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
I choose this one because it's a Paris-Roubaix shot, the race where the riders are riding on cobbles in the north of France. It's my favorite race, the most mad race I ever shot in my life. What I like shooting all the context around the sport. I like to watch not only the action, but what everything is happening around the race. And there is something absolutely important in cycling. It's like the popular devotion, the popular immobilization. Just for them, for example, these people, I think they are waiting maybe all day just to watch 9 seconds of a race. And this is a very big part of the heritage, what for cycling in general. My first shot was like with a very fast speed.
Yes.
And I just remember just watching my shot and I was like, no, it's not what I feel, it's not what I want to show. So immediately I just put my button when I have my other setup with my low speed, and suddenly it finally became what I wanted to show. And just do that because it's kind of showing not just action but all the context, and I think it's super important to shoot that as well.
I really like the colours and the vibrancy to it. It really brings it alive, doesn't it? And like you say, that slow shutter speed is what makes this shot, really brings out the excitement in the image.
I think it's the maddest race I shoot, and I liked it at the end because I really feel like it represents the atmosphere. And the atmosphere, I really like to shoot atmosphere.
Right. Thank you all so much. We've talked about some really interesting topics and we've looked at some incredible images as well. So thank you all so much. Thank you to everybody that's watching at home. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Nikon Sessions. If you found this interesting, you might want to check out some of the other episodes. Please do make sure you subscribe to the Nikon Europe YouTube channel to stay up to date with more Nikon Sessions episodes. Thank you all so much.